Good day, greetings, students. I'm very happy to welcome you all again to your English class. I hope you all are keeping well and your families are safe. In this situation, we have to pray, yes, but let us extend our prayers to those who we know and those who help us in surviving in this pandemic situation. Yes, we would have heard about the frontline workers who are there fighting the pandemic and they are in front of us. Yes, they form a layer in between us and this pandemic situation which actually protects us. The best that we can do is support them, and if we are not able to support them, at least we cannot disturb them and burden them with more work. Yes, children, if we are staying home, if we are staying away from this pandemic situation as much as possible, it will definitely be helpful for these frontline workers. And we know very well of this proverb, health is wealth. Why do we say that health is wealth? If we have money, we can go to a hospital and get cured, isn't it? But still, if you are not healthy, there is no use of your wealth. So that is why we say that health is wealth. You need to be healthy to enjoy the life that is given by our parents. Eat healthy, children, exercise regularly, keep yourself fit so that you definitely will have a wonderful time with your family and friends. At the end, wealth comes to family and friends, isn't it, children? So, it is essential for you to be healthy and at the same time have a watchful eyes over your parents and elders so that they are also healthy. Here's another quote. Health is not just about what you're eating, it's also about what you're thinking and saying. Most of the times we say that health is about the food. We talk about balanced diet, we talk about a healthy diet, but is it food always? No, it's not only about what you're eating, it's also about what you're thinking and saying. So we would have seen in movies that all of us will have an aura around us, a vibration, a wave kind of feel that we emit from us. So when it is positive, when we are feeling positive, we give positive vibrations and happiness to people who are around us. And similarly, when we are angry or sad, people around us also get angry or sad, isn't it, children? So it's the vibrations that our body emits. Similarly, what we are saying. So it is essential that we do not say anything to hurt anyone else. So it is essential that we say something that will make people happy. If you're angry and you don't think whatever you say will make people around you happy or calm, please stay silent. Yes, children, when you think you're not going to give any positive words from your mouth, it's always better to stay silent. So, health is not just about what you're eating, it's also about what you're thinking and saying. So, think well, do good, and say the right things. Say the things that will not hurt people at least. Got it? In your previous session, we have discussed a story from your supplementary reader, that is, A Pact with the Sun. The previous story that we have discussed was A Tale of Two Birds. Do you remember that story, children? It's a story about two brothers who are siblings. They get lost and separated because of a thunderstorm, and one bird ends at a saint's cottage, and one bird ends with a gang of robbers. So a king notices that the bird that is with the saint, with the priest, with the calm man, is acting just like him, and the gang of robbers have changed the bird without any effort to be just like them. Yes, the bird that is with the gang of robbers is as arrogant as the gang of robbers. It is trying to steal from people and harm them. So, the story told us that the way we are brought up really ensures our character. So, this week we are going to continue with a pact with the sun. Apart from that, we have completed a prose, a poetry, and the parts of speech. So, this week we are going to go through a story from Panchatantra. What is Panchatantra stories, children? We would have seen a lot of books in bookstalls with the title Panchatantra stories. These are actually folk stories, folklores, which has animals as the main characters. We get morals from these short stories, and these morals are life affirming, and they tell you a lot about what is right and what is wrong. These Panchatantra stories has the strange ability of making animals talk. Yes, just like the tale of two birds. In this story, also, we're going to have the animals as the main characters, and we are going to learn some morals from these animals. So, when you get a chance, children, kindly buy a Panchatantra stories book and read these wonderful moral stories that are actually entertaining too. And what is today's story about? Today's story is about the proverb think before you leap. You leap. Leap means act or jump. Okay, taking a leap means taking a big jump or moving forward is called a leap. So when we say think before you leap, that means we have to always think before we act. We cannot do something in haste and worry about it later. That is why we say that think before you speak, think before you do anything at all. It is very essential, children, because by mistake we'll just react to a situation without realizing that we are hurting someone. So, today we're going to learn about this proverb think before you leap. Before we go to the story that is given in our supplementary book, let us see a related story that also has the same proverb think before you leap as its moral. The tortoise and the geese. I'm sure some of you would have heard the story from your parents, or even better if you would have read it from a storybook. This is a very famous story that has been repeated for years and years and years. Though there are many variations in this story, we'll stick to one version of the tortoise and the geese. So, what is this story about? So, there were two geese, okay, the plural of goose is geese. There were two geese and a tortoise. These three lived along with other fishes near a pond. So, tortoise, geese, fish, all these things need water, right? So, their pond was actually drying. Their pond was drying. That means the water in the pond was becoming lesser and lesser day by day. So the geese wanted to go find a new pond, and they succeeded. They came back to intimate the tortoise that they are leaving. The tortoise was excited and wanted to join them. But alas, the tortoise couldn't fly. And we know that tortoise walks slow. The pace of tortoise is not very fast. So the geese came up with an idea. They planned to hold a stick between them, and they asked the tortoise to grab the stick with his mouth. By this way, they can carry the tortoise to the other pond from the old pond. Such an interesting plan, isn't it, children? It would have really worked well if the tortoise kept his words and was quiet along the way. So the geese told him that, see, you're holding it with your mouth. So do not open your mouth at all, because they know that their friend tortoise is a talkative. So they did not want him to do anything stupid. So the geese said, think before what you're doing. Make sure. Can you come with us? Can you hold the stick without opening your mouth? And the tortoise was very excited and he nodded his head for everything. So they executed the plan. They took off with the tortoise holding the stick that was held by the two geese. But on the way, there were many people who were looking at this strange sight. Yes, it was strange, isn't it, children? Two geese flying, okay, normal, but they had a stick in their mouth holding a stick. Okay, fine, strange enough. And again, a tortoise was hanging from that stick. It was really, really strange that many people started looking at this scene. The tortoise got annoyed and excited at the same time, and he did not understand why so many people were looking at him and following him to a certain distance. So, this made the tortoise to get angry, and without thinking, he just opened his mouth to say, why are these people looking at me? And he wanted to shout these words to the people. But unfortunately, when the tortoise opened his mouth, he fell down and he died. It was the mistake of the tortoise, isn't it? It was not the mistake of the geese. It was not the mistake of the people too. It was the mistake of tortoise. And what was the mistake he has done, children? He did not think before he acted. Even though he was warned and told many times not to do this, he didn't think before he acted. So, a similar story that gives us the same moral is what we are going to see today. The friendly mongoose. What is it, children? The friendly mongoose. So, mongoose is a kind of an animal. Okay, it is short and it has a very bushy tail. Our families used to have pet animals, right? We have already discussed that, and we think that our pet animals are part of our families. So, in this story, also, we have a mongoose that is kept as a pet animal at a home. So, we know the difference between a house and a home, isn't it, children? So, this pet mongoose was raised by a family, like a father, mother, and a baby is in the family. Now, what happens to this mongoose, and how are we going to understand something out of the story is going to be this session. Now, this is an image of mongoose. There are many species in this mongoose, like kinds or varieties, we say, right? So, just like dogs have different breeds, same way mongoose comes from two different families, and they have lots of species based on their characteristics and the place where they choose to have their habitat, right? So, mongoose is generally known for its eyes and its bushy tail. Some mongoose are furry, that is, their hair is very soft, okay, like a lamb's coat. Some mongoose have a furry coat on them, but most of all, we know mongoose as the enemies of snake. So, one animal that scarce snake is a mongoose. So let's get into the story, shall we? So let's start the story with the prologue given. A farmer, his wife, and their small child lived in a village. There was also a baby mongoose in the house, who they believed would be their son's companion and friend in future. One day, the farmer and his wife went out, leaving the child alone with the mongoose. And after that, what has happened is the story really. So let's get into the story, children. Have a pencil and follow the story as I read through it. Once, a farmer and his wife lived in a village with their small son. They loved him very much. "We must have a pet," the farmer said to his wife one day. "When our son grows up, he will need a companion. This pet will be our son's companion." His wife liked the idea. One evening, the farmer brought with him a tiny mongoose. "It's a baby mongoose," said his wife, "but will soon be full grown. He will be a friend to our son." So, where do we find pet animals? Usually, when the children are in the school. Okay, we do not find these animals when there are only elderly people, right? We most of the times find where there are children in the family, because parents think that having a pet feels good. The children can take care of the pet and feel responsible. At the same time, they will have someone to play with. Similarly, this farmer and his wife were living in a village with their son. They loved him very much. They wanted to give him everything possible. Just like all our parents, these parents were also loving and wanted to give their son everything they could. They wanted to have a pet, especially so that their son will have a companion when he grows up. They wanted someone to be with their son, to play with him, to take care of him, to make their son happy. So the wife also accepted the idea. And one evening, the farmer brought with him a tiny mongoose. So, what did the farmer bring? He brought a tiny mongoose. It's a small animal, right? Even if it grows to its full age, it is not a very big animal like a lion or a tiger. It is a small animal. So, this mongoose, when it was a baby, was very tiny. So the wife said, "It's a baby mongoose, but it's going to grow very fast." So, unlike human beings, animals grow very fast, isn't it? So, she said that this mongoose is going to grow very fast, and what is going to happen? Soon, our child is going to have a companion, a friend. Why soon? Why not now? Because that mongoose is also a baby. Right. So just like a human baby wants to be taken care of, to be fed at times, same way, bringing up an animal is also similar. If you have a pet dog, a puppy, you have to take it for a walk, you have to feed him milk and all these things. But when he grows up, he at least can go out for a walk if you allow him to go alone. Right? He does not look out for your help all the time, but he will become a great companion for you. So the wife hoped that the mongoose, when it grows, will become a great companion for her son. Just as the farmer and his wife hoped, both the baby and the mongoose grew. In 5 or 6 months, the mongoose had grown to its full size, a lovely animal with two shining black eyes and a bushy tail. The farmer's son was still a baby in the cradle, sleeping and crying alternately. One day, The farmer's wife wanted to go to the market. She fed the baby and rocked him to sleep in his little cradle. Picking up the basket, she said to her husband, I am off to the bazaar. The baby is sleeping. Keep an eye on him. Frankly, I don't like to leave the child alone with the mongoose. So, as expected, the baby and the mongoose grew. But in 5 or 6 months, the mongoose had become a big mongoose. Okay, it was no longer a baby mongoose, it had grown to its fullest size. Now it was a lovely animal with two shining black eyes and a bushy tail. The farmer's son was still a baby, right? He is still a baby, just added on for 5 or 6 months, that's all. But still, he is a baby in the cradle, sleeping and crying alternately. What do we mean by a cradle, children? Yes, where babies are laid down for sleep, isn't it? So it swings to and fro, it moves, it makes the baby to feel better and sleepy, right? So the baby was still in the cradle and the baby could only sleep and cry, nothing else. But the mongoose had now become a big animal so that he could just roam around the house and he would play with the farmer and his wife. Whenever they both went out and came home, the mongoose was excited because the mongoose thought that it was his family and these two people were his parents and the baby was his brother. That's how animals feel. When you give love, they give you the loyalty and love 100 times more than what you have given. So, one day the farmer's wife wanted to go to the market. She wanted to buy some groceries, some provision. But groceries means vegetables and fruits. And what do we mean by provisions? The other things like rice, pulses, jaggeries, and all such things. So, what she did, she fed the baby and rocked him to sleep. What do we mean by fed the baby? Gave food for the baby and rocked him to sleep. As you can see in this image, she moved the cradle to and fro. So that is called as rocking the cradle. Okay, rocking the cradle. So see how the cradle is well protected in all the four sides so that the baby would not fall. There's one other thing that is where babies are kept is called a crib. What's a crib? So it's a tiny bed with this kind of balustrades, this kind of grill that keeps the baby inside the bed. Okay, that is also a safe way of keeping babies. But to use a crib, it takes some time, whereas in India, cradles are used most. So, as you can see in this picture, she made the baby sleep and she told her husband that, see, I'm going to the market, bazaar. Bazaar means market. I'm going to the market to buy some groceries and I really am not comfortable leaving the mongoose alone with the child, because it's an animal, you cannot trust it. So I am not very happy leaving the baby alone with the mongoose. So you be at home, do not go anywhere. Stay at the home and take care of the baby. Okay, take care of the baby while he is asleep, is what she said. Okay. You can see in the picture how the wife is worried and how the mongoose is looking at them so affectionately. You needn't be afraid, said the farmer. The mongoose is a friendly animal. It's as sweet as our baby, and they are the best of friends. So the farmer understood the mongoose better. He said to his wife that don't be afraid. The mongoose is a very friendly animal. It's our pet, right? We are raising it, so it will not do anything. and it is as sweet as our baby. Just like how our baby is innocent and sweet, so is the mongoose. And they both are best of friends. You don't worry. Like that, the farmer convinced his wife to go to the market. The wife went away, and the farmer, having nothing to do in the house, decided to go out and take a look at his fields not far away. He ran into some friends on the way back and didn't return for quite some time. So the plan has changed a little. After the wife went, the farmer did not have anything to do at the home. He felt very bored and he thought, okay, the baby is sleeping, and let me go to the fields to check if everything is all right. He had some work in his fields and went to his fields to check. But when he was returning home, he saw some of his friends and he was held back. He couldn't come home for quite some time. He was busy talking with his friends. So, who it was now? It was only the baby and the mongoose at home alone. There is a sentence that says that he ran into some of his friends. So, what do we mean by ran into, children? It is like he met them unexpectedly. So, when we meet someone unexpectedly somewhere, we say that we ran into. So, you can say that I ran into my favorite hero, okay? Or I ran into my teacher in a bookshop. Okay, so what do you mean by ran into? So you met someone unexpectedly somewhere. All right. So he met his friends unexpectedly. Coming back to the story, the farmer's wife finished her shopping and came home with a basket full of groceries. She saw the mongoose sitting outside as if waiting for her. On seeing her, he ran to welcome her as was customary. The farmer's wife took one look at the mongoose and screamed. "Blood!" she cried. The face and paws of the mongoose were smeared with blood. So when the farmer's wife came from shopping, what did she notice? As usual, the mongoose was sitting outside, just like he was waiting for her. Yeah, when we are waiting for someone, we will be at the door, right? So the mongoose was sitting outside the home waiting for her. And like usual times, like all the other times when they both come home, they will be welcomed by mongoose. Similarly, this time also, the mongoose ran to welcome his mother. In his point of view, his mother. The farmer's wife just looked at the mongoose and immediately she screamed. What do we mean by screaming, children? Shouting, okay? There are no words, it's just a scream. It's a shout at the top of our voice. And what did she say? She said blood. Why did she cry blood? Because the face and paws of the mongoose were smeared with blood. Smeared means what? Applied a lot. So the face and paws of the mongoose were covered with blood. Just imagine, she couldn't see her husband anywhere, and she already had a doubt of leaving the baby alone with the mongoose. So she had a thinking that the mongoose is going to harm the baby one or the other day. So on seeing blood on the face and paws of the mongoose, she thought worst of the mongoose. She did not realize or think anything. On seeing blood on the mongoose, she reacted in a very bad way, and that too without thinking, which is really bad. So, what did she do? She shouted, "You wicked animal! You have killed my baby!" She screamed hysterically. She was blind with rage. and with all her strength brought down the heavy basket full of groceries on the blood smeared mongoose and ran inside to the child's cradle. So she said, "You're a very bad animal. You're a wicked animal," means you're a very bad animal, and what you have done? You have killed my baby. The wife said that the mongoose killed her baby, and she screamed hysterically. She did not pass. She was senselessly screaming continuously, and she was blind with rage. Rage means anger, fury, okay? She did not know what she was doing. She immediately brought down the heavy basket full of groceries. She had lots of groceries in her basket, and without thinking, she just threw it, literally threw that basket full of groceries on the mongoose and didn't even wait to see what happened to the mongoose. She simply ran into her home to see her baby. The baby was fast asleep, but on the floor lay a black snake, torn and bleeding. In a flash, she realized what had happened. She ran out looking for the mongoose. She came to the child's cradle, and to her shock, the baby was alive. The baby was sleeping. And what else was shocking? There was a black snake. Okay, it was cut. Torn means it was cut. Its body was cut and it was bleeding. There were blood stains everywhere on the floor. She understood that the blood on the mongoose belonged to the snake and not the baby. She realized that the mongoose had saved her child. But it was too late to realize that, isn't it? She brought a heavy basket of full groceries on the mongoose. So, here in this picture, we can see exactly what has happened clearly. So, there is a snake on the ground, and as we have read in the previous paragraph, it is torn, isn't it? It is cut into two halves, and there is blood on the floor. Okay. As for the baby is sleeping as if nothing disturbed him and nothing has happened to him. He's sleeping peacefully in his cradle, just like how his mother has left him. And where is the mongoose? Can we even identify the mongoose? So, out of the door, if you see, there the mongoose lies under that heavy basket of groceries. So sad, isn't it? It didn't do anything wrong. It just saved his friend, his brother, from a snake. He was an innocent animal, right? But the woman, the wife, expected bad things out of the mongoose and she killed the mongoose without even thinking whether he would have done it or not. She didn't even want to come inside and verify. As soon as she saw blood on the face and paws of the mongoose, she decided that it was the blood of her baby and the mongoose had killed her baby. She didn't think, she didn't take a second moment to go inside and check. She was very hasty. She was in an urgent. She wanted to do something immediately, which made her lose her mind. Children, this is very important lesson that we all should understand. One is think before you act. The other one is haste makes waste. So if we do not take our time thinking, if we do not take our time planning, things might go waste. Okay, do not do something on the spot. You have to be clear. You come to the school for a test without preparation, and we give you a test. Simply do not write. You have to prepare and plan. And you want to ask something to your parents, you want them to buy something. Think, think if it is the right time to buy it or not. You are grown ups to think about all these things, children. Okay? You have come to sixth standard, which means you have grown up. You can think about simple things that makes you a better person. Okay? But the wife of the farmer definitely would not feel a better person, because when came out and she saw that the mongoose was dead and still. "Oh, you saved my child! You killed the snake! What have I done?" she cried, touching the mongoose, who lay dead and still, unaware of her sobbing. The farmer's wife, who had acted hastily and rashly, stared long at the dead mongoose. Then she heard the baby crying. Wiping her tears, she went in to feed him. So when she realized what she had done, she repented it. She felt bad for it, but she could not change anything, isn't it? She dropped that heavy basket of groceries on the mongoose without thinking. Now she knows that it was a mistake. She had done something wrong, but she cannot take those actions back. What is done is done. You cannot change it, isn't it? She did it without thinking. And what happened to the mongoose? Now the mongoose is dead. It's not moving. Whatever she's saying, she's crying, she's touching the mongoose, but still it is not moving because it's dead. It is unaware of her sobbing. Usually, pet animals have this ability of understanding your emotions, your feelings. So, as I said, your aura, right? So they know when you're sad, your pet dog also will be sad, or it will come near you and try to convince you, console you. So usually the mongoose, whenever the wife is sad, will or maybe play with her. But now the mongoose could not do anything to stop the crying of the farmer's wife because he was dead. The farmer's wife, who had acted hastily and rashly, stared long at the dead mongoose. Now, all this she can do is just look at it. Staring means what? Looking at it exactly. Okay, looking at it with detail. So she just simply stared, and then she heard the baby crying. Wiping her tears, she went in to feed him. So the baby cried from the cradle. Obviously, he woke up. She couldn't do anything, right? She killed the mongoose. Now, simply if she's sitting there crying for it or touching it, will not bring the mongoose back. So she wiped her tears and went in to take care of her baby. But this is a lesson that tells us that we have to think before we act. The farmer left the baby and mongoose even though his wife wanted him to stay. And the wife didn't even believe the mongoose that it was an innocent animal. So she just acted without thinking and in haste. So children, never do that. Now the loss is on everybody's side. There is a dead mongoose, which was their pet animal, which was their son's friend, but no more mongoose in their family. And it's a really bad thing. It will create guilty in her, isn't it? She'll feel bad that she only killed the mongoose without a reason. So all these emotions which are sad are not good for us. So beginning of the class we spoke about health, right? Healthy thinking. So do not think bad of someone. Give them a chance. Give them a chance to talk about themselves, to explain themselves before you decide them that they are guilty and accuse them of something else. So I hope this lesson was interesting for you just as it was interesting to me. And I hope you have learned your moral from it. Thank you, and may all have a wonderful day, children.